Good morning,
Good
King's Cathedral.
morning.
Welcome to today's roundtable discussion. I am Johnny DeRay. Here is my lovely wife, Ramy DeRay. Today we have an amazing discussion. We believe it's on time and it's
hmm
something important that needs to be talked about.
Right, and we're going to be continuing our conversation in regards to Black History Month. As many of you are aware, February is Black History Month. Um, and yeah, so I'm excited.
Yes, same here. We're going to be talking with an expert in his field. So we highly encourage that you grab a pen, a pad, replay today's discussion. There's also going to be a second part to today's discussion as well that
hmm
you can catch later on this week.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about the importance of anti-racist teaching.
hmm
So if you can just bring in our guest today, Minister Ray, we're going to have Kashmeel McKenna join us on today's topic. He's going to be able to share his wealth of knowledge. Hey, Cash, how's it
Hey,
going?
Cash.
Hey, Ramy. Hey, John. Thanks for having me. Happy Black History Month. How are you doing?
Pretty
Really
good. How about
good.
yourself?
Doing well, thanks. I've got my Black History Month shirt on. I'm
I
ready to
see
go. I'm
that.
really excited for this
I
opportunity.
see, I see that.
Nice.
That's awesome. I see that. That's great. Great. So in preparing for today's discussion, we came up with a list of questions that we wanted to
hmm
really dive in and ask you about because I believe this topic is really important. And
Well, I think before we get there, Cash, can you do a little introduction? Like, you don't have to say where you work, but just in the field
mm,
that you're in.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a high school teacher. I'm very excited and proud to be teaching 11th grade this year. And I'm certified as an English teacher, but I kind of teach a lot of different subjects right now. So I am a local high school teacher here in the great city of Providence.
All right, thanks. Just so people have a little background of,
Right. We,
yeah.
we don't just got Cash just up here talking.
Right.
He has
Definitely.
nothing to do with this field. So good catch, good catch. Um, so yeah, Cash, we're gonna dive in and start asking you some questions. Hopefully you're okay with that. Well, you're on, so you don't have much of a
Absolutely.
choice. But
Right.
so I want to ask, as a black educator, what do you think is important to address about race and Black history in your classroom?
That's a great question, John. And I think for me, I just don't think that we can afford not to anymore. We're living in
Mm,
a society right now where we are seeing people making life altering decisions for people who don't look like them. And it's, largely rooted a lot of these decisions in either selfishness or ignorance. And I think the classroom is the right place to respond to that. And I'm not just talking about the horrific killings of Black people by police officers, though I am absolutely including that. But it also extends to home ownership and the employees and executives and businesses not reflecting the diversity of our country. I think Minister
mm,
Ray talked really eloquently about that last
He
week
did, he did.
yeah.
in the roundtable. And we didn't get here overnight. This is a systemic issue. When we see things like this, when we see racial inequities at every level of our community and our society, it's a systemic thing. And that
Yeah.
means it's going to take a lot of time for us to figure this out. And I think we have to start early and we have to start powerfully. And that's why I'm a huge advocate of starting these discussions in high school.
Right.
Mm,
That's so good.
that's good.
Right. No, you definitely have to be intentional about this
Right.
stuff. It's
I
not.
mean, I would say it should even start earlier than
Yeah.
high school, but
True.
you are a high school
Absolutely.
teacher, so you're doing what you can
Right.
um, with the role that you have now. So who is this? Well, that kind of answered that question. Who is this for? What kind of students? I mean, I would say all students, but Cash, you can go.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ramy. It's for all students. And I like to think of it as really two groups that have interactions with this. Those are students who have these lived experiences, students who are Black, students who are students of color, and white students who do not have these same experiences. I think it's important for both types of students because you have certain schools where there are no Black students. And, why do they need to learn about Black history? I think that's because we live in a society really where, it is possible because of the way redlining is set up and the way communities are segregated, for you not to have any experiences with people of color or with Black people other than what you see in the media or in the news. It's the way for a lot of this country. And I think that when you only see Black people represented a certain way in media, um, it kind of distorts your view of Black people and how essential they are to this country, how essential we are to the fabric and makeup of this country. And
Mhm.
it allows people to perpetuate those same segregations and injustices where there aren't, if you grow up not seeing Black people, then when you're the executive at your company, you may not hire Black people. You may have it look the way that your life has been throughout,
Right.
since you were a child. Um, and so, because of that, I think education in the classroom is a great place for us to start learning about the contributions of other people in our society, to really see the multicultural history and reality of our country. And then, going on to Black and Brown students who have lived experiences, I think it's important for our children to learn their history because we really want them to see themselves as more than what they see in media. You know,
Mhm.
I think about when I first saw Barack Obama on television. Up to that point, I'd been learning about American presidents, and well, I'm Canadian, so I can't really like aspire to be a president. But um, I was looking at someone else's history. I was looking at someone else's job that I couldn't see myself in. But when I see, living Black history like President Obama is, or Kamala Harris, right, thinking about Black and Asian women, suddenly, oh, I can see myself in those positions. I can see myself in those roles. So now my mind is opening up to the opportunities that I have, and the things that I can study. And that's what education is for, is to open doors. So I think
Mhm.
that's why it's important for both groups of students.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you,
Yeah.
Vash. Um, so why is Black Black history important for high school students? I'm thinking when I was in high school, there was so much going on. There's sports, extracurricular activities, that programs that you're involved in. So is this important for high school students?
That's a great question. Going back to your own high school experiences, what did you learn about Black history? Like, what were you taught? And you don't have to answer that right now. I don't want to put you on the spot, but um,
That's
for
okay.
most people, I think we really only think about two things, or we're only taught two things. Lincoln freed the slaves,
Hmm.
and Dr. King had a dream,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And
That's so true. That is
and
so
those are
true.
really amazing realities of the emancipation of enslaved people and the civil rights movement led by Dr. Martin Luther King.
Hmm.
But
Mhm.
we're so much more than that. And I think when Black history is resisted, right, when we think about all these other priorities, sports, the sciences, all of these other priorities come up, we end up sweeping Black history under a rug
Hmm.
because when you look at it, there are a lot of really ugly realities, right?
Mhm.
Like slavery didn't end, like the end of slavery did not end racism.
Right.
And Dr. King's dream, as powerful as it was and as powerful a movement as that was, like that doesn't explain why we still have the need for a Black Lives Matter movement today. um, and so it's actually really scary. I was looking this up this month. There are even schools in our country that where like parents can opt out of having their children learn about Black history in school,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
And if you think about that, that just shows that, like, when we think about history, when we think about our, at least what's required education in our country, we're thinking about the contributions of white Americans or European history, which, has important roots for us that we need to learn about. But we're hiding the scarier stuff. We're hiding the
Mhm.
ways that Black people were treated, the ways that Asian Americans were treated, right? We hide those things because it doesn't fit our image of America being the home of the free and the brave and the land of liberty and freedom. Like, how can you talk about freedom when you've enslaved people as like the main source of income in this country, or the main source of the economy? It's scary to
Right.
face, but when we can face those scary realities, we can also see all of the beauty of the leaders and the influencers who have really changed America and made America what it is today. So I think we gotta like embrace all of it, the ugly truth and the beautiful truth. We gotta bring it together, because we won't fix what we're seeing in our society if we continue to ignore it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think bringing it to light is only gonna help heal it, right? And make so we don't repeat history and do
Right.
it again.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think if the saying goes that those who do not learn their history are doomed to repeat it. I think we're
Right.
seeing that right now.
Exactly.
Um, so we better learn this time.
Right.
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 So Cash, who would you say is responsible for teaching these students?
That is a great question, Raimi, and I'm going to say this as a Black male educator. It is not just my responsibility.
Good answer,
I,
guys.
I really think and truly believe it's the responsibility for all educators. And I think that there are opportunities for us to be anti-racist in every classroom. Or if you're
Mhm.
a parent teaching your students at home or homeschooling, especially in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic, I think it's your responsibility too. And I said anti-racist, and you mentioned, John, earlier that this is about anti-racist teaching. To be anti-racist is different from being not racist.
Mm.
Like being not racist means that you can ignore race or just not mention it. And why do we need to mention the black race when we're talking about like algebra?
Mhm.
That's the idea of being not racist. But the problem with that is, again, you could be ignoring the issues that your students are facing right in front of you, or that your students will see in their communities. It's sweeping it under the rug and disregarding the real experiences of the students that may be before you, or the communities where your students are going to be impacting.
Yeah.
So I think being anti-racist in your education means acknowledging the historic contributions and exclusions of different races in whatever subject you're teaching. And that might be easy for me thinking about like English and history. In the English classroom, that means we don't all have to read Macbeth and Pride and Prejudice every year. We can look at the contributions of other writers
Mhm.
um, who look like our students, who look like me. And that also plays into history, like we just talked about. But how does this play into, like, for a science teacher? What do they do? I would encourage science teachers to look at scientists and talk about scientists like George Washington Carver, some of us know about, the chemist Herbert Smitherman, Dr. Smitherman, who invented a variety of products that we use today, including some laundry detergents and toothpastes. There's also a Black woman that I think science teachers should talk about, Dr. Kizamika Corbett, who is actually the Black woman who was behind the coronavirus vaccine that's currently being rolled out around the country.
Mm.
We talked about that. I heard a little bit in your conversation a few weeks ago about the vaccine. And as far as the sciences, well, those are the sciences thinking about math. I think it's also important to highlight the role of Black mathematicians in creating a lot of what we're studying today and the ways that they solve problems.
Mhm.
Jose Vilson is an educator who I follow who does a lot to highlight the different contributions of Black mathematicians. And it kind of goes back to that whole thing about Obama and Harris, right? If we don't see ourselves in those positions, like if I'm a student in a science class and I don't see Black scientists, I'm not going to think I could be one, right? I'm not going to
Right.
think that I can ace this math test if I don't see anyone in my family who's being successful at it, or in my classroom who's being successful at it. So if
Mhm.
we can see images of success for Black and Brown people, then our students can then believe that they can become it. And I think that's so important in those fields like science and math, because face it, Black people are underrepresented in those fields. And so if we
Mm.
want them to be encouraged in those fields, we have to show them that it's possible.
Right.
You know,
Right.
just like how they're seen in, just how we see ourselves in music, we see ourselves in sports, right? In many Black athletes, we got to see ourselves in these other areas too, so that
Absolutely.
these other opportunities open up. And so that's why I think it's important for every educator to talk about Black history and anti-racist teaching.
Yeah,
So
this is
true.
all so good,
Yeah.
but I think we have to wrap up because of time. But if if anyone wants to contact Cash and have more conversations about this, his information will be posted to get in contact with him. And we hope that you guys will tune in for part
Yeah.
2 coming up sometime this week. So look
Yes.
out for that.
So stick
Oh,
around, Cash. Yeah.
I should say real quickly, my name that you can see at the bottom of the screen, it looks like it's misspelled. It's not. It's actually my pen name. So if you email me or visit my website there, I will definitely respond to you. It's not a typo.
Thank you for pointing that out, Cash. So yes, Cash, stick around. We're gonna ask you some more questions because this is an important topic.
Yeah.
And we believe it's a topic that needs to be talked about, not just for Black History Month, but throughout the year.
Right.
So yeah, stick around, especially if you are a teacher in some way, shape, or form. Stick around to listen, or if you cannot listen, replay the second part. So yes, we're going to send this over to the next portion of our service. So we hope you enjoy today's message later
Mhm.
on today.